everyone, my name is Sally Fowler. I'm the owner and trainer for Disabled Advantage. Disabled Advantage is a small service dog training business that works with clients virtually all over the US. I specialize in CRPS and chronic disorder service dogs, as well as a general theme of mobility tasks. Last weekend, Austin and I had the wonderful opportunity to go talk to a local Girl Scout chapter about service dogs and answer their questions about what Austin does and how I pick out dogs and all sorts of really excellent questions about service dogs. Some of them I'd gotten before and some of them I'd never gotten before, which was really exciting to get a chance to answer those questions and to hear all the creativity that they could come up with about wanting to learn more about service dogs. The beginning of this video did get cut off. Pretty much as soon as we showed up, the girls started asking questions. So we were a little bit behind on recording my answers to all of them, but we got a lot of good questions recorded and a lot of fun answers. And you will get to see some of the tasks that Austin does for me, which was a great demonstration as well. If you're interested in having Austin and I teach you or a group that you're in charge of more about service dog education and awareness, please reach out to me through my website. I hope you enjoy this Q&A as much as I enjoy doing it.
Okay, I'm gonna take you in a grocery store and I don't want you to smell anything. So can you imagine that, asking a dog to turn their nose off for an entire day? They're not allowed to sniff the shelves, they're not allowed to randomly grab stuff off the shelves, and that takes a lot of time and training. And fake service dogs, they aren't doing that, they're just getting taken places. And because we have to teach dogs how to be confident when we go out in public. And so if we don't teach dogs that, they get really stressed out by our world. There's a lot of stuff in our world that's overwhelming. There's bright lights, slippery floors, people invade their space. And we teach service dogs how to be okay with all that. But pets aren't exposed to that, and their owners don't necessarily know how to go about training that type of scenario. And so the dog usually looks, if you stop and look at the dog, it's like crouched down or it's looking up and you can see the whites of its eyes, or its spine is curved and its tail is between its legs. It might be shaking, might be panting a lot even if it's not in a really hot area. And those are all signs that a dog's kind of overwhelmed with its life. This is a really good question.
Now, you said you recruited your friend to help with distraction training, right?
Yes.
So that's something you actively, like, throw balls or teach them to
yes.
ignore.
Yes. There is so I grew up riding horses and wanted to be a horse trainer. I wanted to work with problem horses, so horses that, kick people and throw people and stuff like that. And when I was doing all of my horse education, one of the things I came across are these giant, they look like yoga balls. Ours is 25 inches tall, but they come in even bigger sizes, and they're used to train mounted police officer horses how to be okay with riots and riot control. Is they roll the ball past and bounce the ball off of the horses, and I incorporate that once a dog has learned something. So that's not something I do right out of the gate. Austin, my foundation obedience course is really, really long. That's because I take the time to make sure that I asked Austin to be in a down. I'm not holding on to him at all. Good boy. But I could walk up to him and he's gonna stay in that down. And when she ran past him, he didn't really react. I could bounce my giant ball past him and he would stay in a down. And that's one of the last stages that I do before I move on to harder stuff, and it helps prepare the dog for things like people pushing a shopping cart really close past him, or we've gone to a lot of events where people don't realize he's there and they walk this close to him and then realize that he's there and he doesn't move, which is part of the training.
Which dog gets more training, a police dog or a service dog?
Service dog. Police dogs are trained to, they get different training. I don't have personal experience with police dogs, but I've read a little bit about their training. And my husband got to be around one on a few occasions, and it depends on what the police dog's job is, because if they're a detection dog, they have to be super confident with doing weird stuff like climbing on your dining room table to check it. Austin's not allowed on my dining room table, and he knows that. He can put his paws up on it and get stuff off of it and bring it to me, but he can't just go, I'm gonna jump on the dining room table now. And so police dogs they have a lot more what looks like freedom than a service dog does, because they have to have that confidence to, you know, go into a space and check it and look for things and go right up to a car and smell it intensely, or run across someone's couch and stuff like that. And it looks like out of the control behavior, but it's actually something that is trained. And police dogs are, not all of them, but a lot of them are bite work trained. And so that's when they start when these dogs are 2 months old, teaching them to bite tugs and to bite arm sleeves and stuff like that. And it's actually really cool to see how happy the puppy is doing his job. But Austin can't ever bite anyone. If he does, his career as a service dog is over. And the police dogs aren't doing it from a bad mental state. Like, they're not doing it because they're bad dogs. They were asked to do it and taught how to do it a certain way and taught to let go. But I can't teach Austin to be protective of me at all. And that is kind of a hard thing about being disabled, is that you feel really vulnerable and you want protection. He's also gunfire trained. You want protection. And you have to, I'm more the protector of him than he can be the protector of me. When that stray dog showed up, or that farm dog showed up earlier, I actually didn't notice because I was focused on doing an exercise with him. She acts as my bodyguard when she's with me, and she immediately noticed. Austin held a sit when a strange dog ran up to him, and he was kind of like, oh, dog, but also focused on my person. And I, got him back on leash. But if I'd been by myself, it would have been my job to stand in front of Austin and protect him as much as I possibly could. And that's a choice that I make. Some disabled owners aren't physically capable of doing that. And so that does sometimes end with their dog getting attacked, which is one of the worst scenarios you can experience. I've come close a few times. But I can't drive, which I don't like because I really miss that freedom. But because I can't drive, I always either have Maddie or my husband with me, and they kind of act like bodyguards to ward off loose dogs. So I am a little bit safer in that aspect.
So how do you pick a dog to train? What do you look for when you're...
It depends on a lot of different things. When I help someone, one of the things I do is I help people find a dog to train. And the first thing I figure out is what their disability is, and if their disability has a certain parameter to it. I have a disability called complex regional pain syndrome, which is really complicated. It basically means that my brain thinks that I'm in severe pain all the time and tells my nervous system that I'm in severe pain all the time. And it feels like having the worst sunburn ever and then taking a hot shower. But all the time. Every minute of your day. My brain spends so much time processing how much pain I'm in that I struggle with other things like balance or picking the right words. I fall down sometimes, and I need a dog who can help prevent some of my pain triggers. Things like opening doors, moving objects, picking things up, getting me off the ground when I fall down. But I also need a dog who's not crazy. So I can't have a really high energy dog who just wants to go all the time because I can't physically go all the time. So for myself and people with my condition, I look for dogs that have the ability to calm down and chill out for a little bit. I also personally needed to look for a dog who was super soft. And Austin is incredibly soft. And at the end of this presentation, I am going to take his gear off and let you guys interact with him. His gear tells him that he's not allowed to talk to you guys. So I'll take it off and you will definitely see a different Austin. So I ask people like, well, if your CRPS is in your hands, what types of textures are you sensitive to? I personally can't touch poodles. They feel like steel wool to me. But to another friend with pain in their hands, poodles are the only type of dog they can tolerate touching. So I ask questions like that. And then I prefer to look for shelter dogs because my first dog was a shelter dog and my second dog came from a shelter as well. I believe they do have, there's gems hiding in there. But I look at the ads of about 200 to 300 different dogs and evaluate various behavior characteristics and things like Susie's a little shy with men. That gets an immediate strike. Service dogs have to be friendly and welcoming to every single person. They can't be too friendly because like if Austin was too friendly, he would ignore me and just go snuggle with all of you. Like her dog. And they can't have an issue with cats. They can't have an issue with chickens. They can't have a bite record. They can't have ever broken a limb. Because if they've ever broken a limb, that's a weak spot. They could break it again. And so narrowing down the list of a dog that like is friendly to everybody, doesn't have any injuries, isn't afraid of anything, and is younger than 2 years old in the shelter system takes a while. And there are some areas that are better for it than other. Missouri isn't too bad because reasonably you can drive to the top or the bottom or the sides of Missouri and find a dog, and it's not like a 2-day adventure. It's not a great day, but you can do it. One of my clients right now was in Portland, and Portland does something weird where they say they have dogs in Oregon, but their dogs are actually in Texas. And so it was really hard. We ended up finding a breeder for her. We couldn't find her a shelter dog because I insist that people meet the dog and interact with it hands-on, because I can evaluate a dog over Zoom, but I want to see how the dog interacts with a person. We chose Robbie, who was my first dog, because he met a list of criteria that we'd made up. Confident, 0 behavioral problems, right size, things like that. We picked Austin because he met the criteria list, we actually didn't have a lot of, I have a very annoyingly long list of questions I ask shelter staff that they've never been asked for before. I think I definitely come across as annoying, but every question I ask has a purpose and it tells me something about the dog. We actually didn't have a ton of info on Austin, but when I met Austin, one of the tests I run is I crouch over the ground and pretend to be injured, and Austin's initial response was to immediately come to me. And so that told me that he was interested in me and had the potential to be a service dog. We saw this again when 5 days into training Austin, my brain turned off my feet, forgot where my feet were, which happens occasionally, and so I fell over real hard. I fell over so hard that I hit my head on my shoulder and I blacked out. And we'd had this dog 5 days, and I woke up to him acting like a fully trained service dog, nudging my face and licking me and doing everything he could to bring me back to consciousness, and then laying down beside me very quietly while my husband took care of me. And that's behavior you don't typically see until the dog's done. So that really solidified for us that we had picked the correct dog for me. So those are sort of the things I look at. I look at a lot of stuff. Yep.
Have you ever had someone, like a kid, come up to your service dog and like act crazy?
All the time. It happens so much. I was training, Robbie was like 20% smaller than Austin was. And I was training Robbie to ignore people walking past him. So I had my back to the entrance of a mall. I've learned to stand a little bit more like this so I can see things coming up behind me. And this 5-year-old boy came out of nowhere and just launched himself onto Robbie. Robbie was sitting, launched his arms around Robbie and just gave him a giant hug. And Robbie just kind of paused and looked up at me like, is this okay? And the mom came up behind us and, oh, I'm so sorry. And yep. Okay, bye. I work really, really hard to make sure my service dogs are okay with kids doing that. We hadn't explicitly done that to Robbie on purpose, but I did have my husband's niece helped us with some of the training exercises for Robbie. So we did targeted work where we had her like come up from the side and pet him on the head, and then come up from behind him and pull his tail a little bit. And we did those exercises again with Austin. We'd had Austin about 2 weeks. We were in the pet store, and I think a 2 or a 3-year-old got away from her parents, came up to Austin and wrapped her arms around the front of his neck and gave him a hug. And oh, he thought it was the best thing ever. He loves kids. And so he was just wiggling and wagging his tail, and he thought it was great. And I was trying to get him to not jump on her. So yes, we get a ton of kids coming up. We have noticed though, in the last few years, we think parents are doing a more proactive job to educate their kids, which I really appreciate. Because we haven't had as many kids come up to Austin as we did Robbie. We also had one experience where we were in Target and we heard doggy, and then we heard slapping of flip-flops following us around a store. And I think grabbed his tail a few times, and he just stayed really focused on like there's something chasing me. But it's okay, y'all will handle this. So yes, that does happen. One of the things we do to help prepare them for children is we go and just hang out by a playground and just ask the dog to be really, really calm with all the kids running around. And that helps. And also the surprise interactions, we handle it in the moment, and that also teaches the dog how to handle it. But if a kid ever comes up and the dog runs away, that would be a sign to me that, hey, maybe this dog isn't cut out for being a service dog. And that would be really unfortunate because he doesn't have to work with kids, but he 100% has to be okay with a kid randomly hugging him.
Are there some breeds that are very
Yes and no. There are, any breed can be a service dog, and any breed can legally be a service dog. But it depends on what you need the dog for and that individual dog. There are some breeds that are harder to train, not impossible, but harder. One breed that a lot of other trainers I've talked to consistently don't like working with are Huskies.
They're all realizing
Everybody's
it's warmer
cold.
in the sun.
Yeah. And Austin is 50% Husky. And when I found that out, I really wanted to send him back. Because they're talkative. And I don't mind the stubborn. My first dog was incredibly stubborn. I can handle stubborn. But the first night we had Austin, he was frustrated, and so he barked at me. And my disability affects my nervous system. Your nervous system controls everything in your entire body. So when Austin barked, it caused sensory overload for me. And for me, that makes me really, really dizzy and really nauseous and made me black out. And it made my first service dog look real worried and then glare at Austin. And so I had to work really hard to teach Austin that he wasn't allowed to make husky noises. I'm not really sure how to describe those. You'll get to hear them later though, because he's already talked a little bit today and I think he has his talking hat on. He's allowed to talk outside more than he is inside, because inside the noise bounces off all the walls and it hurts me worse. But I need what are called mobility tasks. So I need help with walking, standing up, stabilizing if I'm dizzy or my legs are weak. Yesterday I had a muscle spasm in my leg and my whole leg just gave out all of a sudden and I fell on the ground. And it was his job to help me off the ground. To do that, I need a dog that's really big. So, Austin, stand. Good boy. You guys see how big he is compared to me? Yeah, he's really big. And when I reach down, I don't have to reach down that far to be able to put my hands on his shoulders. And that's how he stabilizes me. Or, well, he's not wearing it right now because I hurt my arm, but sorry, buddy. He has a strap that usually lives on his harness that I can hold on to. I can pull up on him. And you see how he kind of resists me falling backwards? That's one of his jobs. So that's why he has a handle, but my hand has to be really close to it. My first dog, Robbie, I got a little bit wrong. This is the first time. He was a little too short. So me walking with his assistance looked a little bit more like this, which is not correct. With Austin, I made a second mistake. Didn't take into account all of my shoes. So when I wear boots, he's a little bit too far away. When I wear my snow boots, he's even more far away. So we're gonna take that into account the third time around. It's a bit of a learning curve for me. Down. And Austin is 85 pounds. So that gives him the strength to pull heavy things for me. He's also trained to pull a cart to bring firewood into the house for us. He's learning that this fall. He likes to go really fast, so he's not allowed in the house with it yet. And he can pull a laundry basket for me. He can stand up on the washer and put clothes in it. And all of those things are big dog things. Can you guys imagine a Chihuahua trying to do that? It would look ridiculous and it wouldn't work. And we have tug ropes on all of our doors at home, so he can tug doors open for me or push them closed. And her dog is what she calls normal sized. He can reach all the tug ropes, but he doesn't really understand the concept. He wasn't trained to do it.
I also don't want him opening all my doors. So.
Yeah, once you teach a dog how to open all the doors, they open all the doors. There have been a lot of times where I've gone outside without him and I hear the door creak open and I look and he's just right there. Hello, you're not supposed to go outside without me. So that takes a big dog, but other disabilities may not need a big dog. Other disabilities may not want to handle a big dog. Alert dogs who alert to things like heart rate or dizziness, blood sugar, blood pressure, things like that, they can be smaller. They can be, as some people use toy breeds. I personally don't quite agree with it because I don't know that I would feel a toy breed touching me anywhere. But it's a little bit more leeway. Just depends on what you need. But mobility dogs need to be 60 pounds or more and like 24 inches tall at the shoulder or more. Yep.
What like do you have like a certain brand of dog toys like that's like best? I know it sounds weird.
No, that's a really good question actually. It depends on the dog. Some dogs like chewing more than they like playing fetch. Right now Austin's favorite toy is from a Tall Tales.
That sounds right.
Yeah, Tall Tales. They made a pine cone rubber toy that when you throw it, it's reactive, so it changes where it bounces to and makes it more engaging for the dog. I don't really have a favorite toy. I try not to let my service dogs chew on ropes, which sounds weird, but ropes are for working. So I don't let my dogs chew on toys. We play fetch with rope toys, but we don't sit down and just gnaw on them. And we actually do have ropes just tied to everything in our house, so I don't want to teach that. I don't let, until I've taught a really gentle hold for picking up weird things like phones and bottles and stuff like that, I don't let a dog have squeaky toys, because squeaky toys teach the dog to chomp down a lot. So they get that when they're grown-ups. And if they then start biting through my phone, I take those away. My first dog was obsessed with a tiny rope. His favorite toy was a 3-inch long rope for a 70-pound dog. It looked like he had a shrimp hanging out of his mouth every time he ran with it. It was very strange. Austin doesn't really seem to have a favorite. Well, no, that's not true. Okay, my friend gave me a duck that has a squeaker in the nose, and you're supposed to put a bottle inside it so it crinkles. We put a Kong inside it so that it could actually be thrown, and that's Austin's favorite toy. He likes to toss it around and buck and thrash. So I then have to put myself someplace safe because I've been hit with that a lot, and it's really painful.
What if Austin was to get sick and you had to go somewhere like a doctor's appointment and no one could go with you?
I have to arrange my entire life around 2 people, basically. her and my husband. So I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere outside my house without first matching it to their schedules, which is very restrictive. And I feel bad about it because they get dragged into a lot of stuff that they probably may or may not actually want to go to. So if nobody can drive me, I don't go. But the other part to that question was if Austin's sick. That's a great question. What was that for? Austin sprained his back earlier this year, and so we had to take him out of work service for a few months. I think 2 months. And Austin had to stay at home by himself while me and my husband or me and Maddie went places. And he had to stay in a crate. So that's why I stress that all service dogs need to be crate trained, because sometimes they will have to stay at home and be sad. He was very sad not getting to go places and do his job. And I just had to function without him. But when I don't have a service dog's help, I fall more. My pain levels are higher. Have you guys ever heard of the pain scale? Your doctor ever asked you about that?
Yeah.
I live at an 8 out of 10. That's my normal existence. Working with a service dog keeps me at between an 8 and a 9. When I don't have a service dog helping me, my daily existence is a 10 or higher.
Is there medication you can take to bring that pain level down?
Sort of. I do have pain medication from my doctor and muscle relaxers from my doctor, but it doesn't really bring the pain down. It just helps me tolerate how much severe pain I'm in. I have been recovering from surgery. In 2016, I had jaw surgery, and at the hospital they gave me IV fentanyl, which is a really powerful pain medication, right? Okay, that took me to a 9.5. But I was more okay with my existence at a 9.5. And I don't really have a better way to explain that. That has gotten harder in recent years because of all of the scrutiny over pain medication and stuff. I actually had to go 8 months without any type of medication support, which was not fun. Yes.
Which one do you fall over with? Your husband or with Austin? More.
Can you help me
I
understand?
hear what you
fall
said.
over with more, your husband or Austin?
Well, my husband has dropped me. But that was before he was trained. And now he knows what to look for and hasn't dropped me again. The first year that I trained Austin, he actually caused a fall every 2 weeks for like 6 months. And the reason is I had to teach Austin heel. I had to teach Austin how to walk in this exact position really close to me and not deviate from this, not go away from this position. And that's really hard to teach a dog. Like most dogs, when they learn heel, it's somewhere out here, just don't pull. And Austin has to be right here all the time. And Austin would get very distracted. And so he'd end up turning his head that way, and he'd knock his shoulders into me and push me here, and I would just go straight down like a rock. So he caused a lot of falls. But now that I have him, he prevents more falls. My first dog was really good at watching my legs when I walked, and he could tell if my legs were getting weaker, and he would actually stop on walks and move in front of me a second before I fell, and he would catch me. I don't fall as much as I used to because Austin does such a good job that I sort of think Austin doesn't realize I'm as big of a fall risk as I am, which is bad because it means he's less prepared for it than Robbie was, but it's also good because it means I'm not falling as much. So, yes.
How often do you fall?
Can you repeat that?
How often do you fall?
Before working with a service dog, down. Good boy. Before working with a service dog, I used to fall down 2 to 3 times a week. Working with a service dog, I fall down 1 to 2 times a year. Yeah, it's a pretty big change. Most dangerous times of year though are ice. So I also have to teach, with the balance problems, have to teach my service dog how to help me walk on ice. Which it happens in really short periods. 2 years ago, or last January I think, we got a bunch of snow. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And there's a road I walk on and it was mostly dirt with a few rocks, and so it was just an ice sheet. And I wear special tracks on my snow boots to help me grip better. And one of them popped off mid-walk, and I had to go back and find it and then sit on the ice to put it on. And I had Robbie with me, and he was retired by that point. Robbie injured his shoulders, and so he was technically out of service. He wasn't supposed to be working. We were training this fool. Only had one dog at a time. Because he had too much young, excited puppy energy to be walked on the ice quite yet. And I sat down on the ice to put my tracks back on so I could walk more safely. And then I was sitting on the ice trying to figure out how to stand up, because I was also wearing full bibs. Do any of you have bibs? They're really heavy. And Robbie looked at me, and he side passed and looked at me and put himself in the bracing position and stamped his feet and then looked at me. And I said, "No, you're old. You're not supposed to be working." And he got a little bit closer and stamped harder and looked at me. And so I braced on him and stood up, and he did his best to stand as strong as he could. He was 8 by that point, which was old for him. And he got me home. Yeah.
Do you still have him?
We do not. Robbie died last spring. He suddenly got spleen cancer, which apparently can happen to dogs in a very short amount of time.
This probably is a really stupid question, but what about Black Friday? With the insane stores, do you go Black Friday shopping?
I do not.
No.
If I were
I don't go Black Friday.
Yes, I did take advantage of a Hulu deal and a laptop deal online.
I shop that way.
My dad was a professional photographer for newspaper for his entire career, and one of the things that they used to send him out to do was Black Friday. And so I heard a lot of scary stories about Black Friday growing up, and they made him go at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and he never got trampled, thankfully. But so the places that I pick to go, I'm restricted by their schedules. I'm also restricted by my disability. My disability does not do well with loud noises, screaming, vibrations, bright lights, tight spaces, things like that. And then I'm restricted by how do I keep Austin safe? And places, events like Black Friday where people are getting trampled. Service dogs, once they're fully trained, so if you can go places and get a dog fully trained. Most of those dogs cost $20,000. So do I want my $20,000 dog to get trampled? No. Right. I also personally don't want to take Austin to things like bars or concerts. I personally can't go there because of my disability, but I would also worry about keeping him safe. Other teams are different, so it's up to each individual team to decide, you know, I do want to go to Black Friday. I need my service dog to block. That's a task where theoretically they see the dog standing beside you or in front of you or behind you, and they don't come into your personal space bubble. I have not had great luck with that. People have knocked me over before, but it works for some teams, and so they might go to an event like that. But me personally, we kind of have to manage my disability by limiting what it's exposed to, and so a place like that would be really, really dangerous for me, and especially for him.
How often does Austin have to take breaks?
What was that?
How often does Austin have to take breaks?
Breaks? Like a break from doing his job?
Yeah.
He has sort of a weird life. It's a good question. The general rule of thumb for a service dog is every 2 hours. So people who take their service dog to school or to an office job usually get up and let the dog take its gear off and like play a little bit every 2 hours, maybe stretch their legs, go to the bathroom, stuff like that. My disability is very unpredictable. So technically, even when Austin's off duty, he still has to come help me when I need help. At home, Austin's naked, which means he doesn't wear this gray vest. He still has to work for me when he's naked. But if I'm at home and I'm sitting in my chair, he's technically on break. He gets playtime 2 to 3 times a day and long public excursions. So we live out in Prairie Home, which is middle of nowhere. If we go to Columbia for errands, we're in Columbia all day long to do as much as possible. Those days we usually try to give Austin a break somewhere around lunchtime. We take his gear off, we put him on a 15-foot leash and let him run in a circle and play with a toy and stuff like that. And I recently joined a co-working space, and they're okay with him not having gear on. So they're okay with him wandering around and kind of stretching out and sprawling and being a little bit more unprofessional, which helps him.
How many dogs do you like train at a time?
Currently 2. The training never really ends. So Austin's currently learning a few new things, and if I don't keep doing stuff with him every day, he gets really annoying. And he starts doing things, we call it in our house using his powers for evil. So we have to keep Austin's mind engaged, and he's learning new things. Currently I have 1 training client, and I work with her either every week or every other week. I teach virtually, so my client is in California, which is cool.
The
and
state,
also,
not California, Missouri.
yeah, the state, which is cool, but she's also 2 hours behind me, which is confusing at times for both of us. I am hoping to bring on a second client soon, so then I would be working with her dog and his dog. But the way I do it is I teach the owner how to do the training, because their dog doesn't need to learn about my disability. Their dog needs to learn about them. And they need to learn how to communicate with their dog. and we're not sure. Most dog trainers are able to work with like 10 clients a week or more. I can't handle that because teaching triggers pain for me. Talking triggers pain, moving my body triggers pain. I need rest periods after working with a client. And so I can only work with one client in a day. And we think, it hasn't happened yet, but we think I can only probably handle 3 training clients at once because my training sessions are usually 3 hours long.
What tasks can he perform?
Oh, he can do all sorts of things. Would you guys like to see some of the things he can do?
Yeah.
Okay, Austin. We'll see how he does. He might be under the impression that today is an off day because he helped me teach yesterday and the day before. So Austin saw him stabilizing for me. That's one of his tasks. Okay, you guys see how he's watching me? That's one of the things he's supposed to do. So, if I fall down, he's supposed to immediately come to me, stand a certain way, and help me stand up. That's one of his tasks. He learned that because, stop, where are you going? It's not visit time yet. My first dog knew when I was faking a fall. Okay, so I had to fake fall a lot to teach them how to do this. It's not the most fun when you have a pain disorder, but it was necessary. First dog learned pretty quickly when it was real and when it was fake and when my husband was home. If it was fake, he would take his time. He'd stretch, he'd look at the birds, he'd look out the window, and then he'd come get me off the ground. If it was real, he'd come right away without me saying a single word. And we have video of that. I fell training a friend's dog, and he leaps off the porch and pushes the other dog, who was bigger, out of the way to help me. When my husband was home, he would look at me, look at my husband like, you're home. She's your problem now. And wait for him to handle it. He doesn't seem to know when it's a fake fall. He just gets so excited to do his job, which is good. If I'm doing something like, if I wanted to climb on the picnic table or get off of it, I could put my hand on his shoulder and he would stabilize me while I got onto it. Yeah?
Would you react to like anyone else falling around you?
They're not supposed to. She got thrown from a horse once, and Robbie did run over and check on her. Did he try to help you up though, or did he just go to you?
I don't know, my butt hurt pretty bad, so I wasn't quite aware, but he also really likes me, so.
Yeah, that was a problem. Favorite person over there. They're not supposed to. If my husband cries out in pain, Austin usually perks up and is like, but you're fine. So I guess I don't need to do anything. So one of the things Austin knows how to do is touching things with his nose. Nose? Yes. And it turns the light on. So you guys can't see it because we're outside. It's a very bright light. Nose? Nose? Good job. Like, I usually get food for this. Nose? Good job. He can also do it on my leg, which is pretty cool. I know, it's a bag of fun. I'm excited too. Robbie would get stage fright, and so I actually couldn't show anybody Robbie's tasks. Around? That works too. That was technically around. Good job. But he's not very good at positioning himself where people can see what he's doing. So you see this is a much smaller target. Nose, good job. Nose, good job. So this is for, don't stand on that. This is for pushing handicap buttons. It's also for alerting. So one of my problems is my body overproduces adrenaline, which is really unfortunate. Thank you. Because when I get really excited about something, my hands shake. Okay? I'm having fun teaching you guys, but making my hands shake worse. I'm also afraid of thunderstorms and tornadoes, and so when I get those, they're very similar to anxiety attacks, but they're worse because my body's literally flooded with a bunch of adrenaline that doesn't go away for about 5 hours. So I usually exercise if I get an adrenaline episode. But Austin, if I'm shaking too much, Austin is supposed to try and hold my hand still and interrupt. Good job. Yeah. And he can do it with things, if I'm like scratching my leg or something too. He was trained to nose target with something as small as this. Nose? Oh, it won't stay. Oh no. Austin, nose. Good job. And you'll note, don't eat the target. Come on. I have blue and yellow targets. Do you guys know why?
Because dogs can only see in blue and yellow.
Exactly. Good job. They can see sort of grayscale other colors, but these are the colors they see best. So a lot of times when people train service dogs, these are the colors that they use for stuff.
I didn't see color well. I didn't think I could see blue and yellow. I thought it was more like a
All right, so one of the things he does for me is retrieve work. Austin, down. Down. Thank you. Austin has a bad habit of liking to choose where he lays down, and sometimes he chooses to be way far away from where I intended. So I need help picking things up because bending over can cause me to lose my balance or get dizzy. I also have TMJ. Do you guys know what TMJ is? It's a problem with your jaw joint that can cause a lot of jaw pain, and that doctors try really hard not to specialize in. And mine actually causes dislocation. So when I bend over, I get head pain and jaw pain. So we try to limit me bending over. Part of my job is to always keep a collection of random things my dog can practice picking up, so that if they mess it up, I care less.
rather than your iPhone.
Exactly. So they learn to pick up an old phone that we don't use anymore, as opposed to trying it on the real thing. This is a book that I read once and kept specifically for dog training. See how marked up that is? This is courtesy of my first dog, Robbie, and Austin continued it. This is the only book we practice with, and we're gonna get better at it until he's allowed to pick up actual books that I drop. And he is better at it, but some days are better than other days. And if it's a book I really, really like, I probably don't ask him to pick it up. Some dogs are better at this task than others. Some dogs are awesome at it. He's better at it than Robbie was, but his teeth are pointier than Robbie's were. So Robbie was, it's weird. Robbie was able to pick up Post-it notes. He'd pick them up like a frog, stuck his tongue out, and hand it to me. This fool brings things to me soaking wet, slobbery, and with teeth punctures in it. Not because he's biting it, but just because his teeth are so sharp. So there are some things I don't let him pick up. There's also some things he's just, none of our dogs are allowed to pick up. I carry a pocket knife. He's not allowed to pick up the pocket knife. I pick it up or I kick it out of the way until my husband can get home. We have firearms in our house. He's not allowed to pick up our firearms. Like, there are some things that are just off the table. He can pick up my shoes, but he cannot pick up my husband's dress shoes. Robbie tried once, and husband got very mad. So, there are limitations, but I'll see if he does some of his retrieve work for you guys. I've got some different things in here. He might make noise, because he really likes this. Austin, front. Good boy, thank you. Take. Good. Hold. Good boy. Give. Thank you. Okay, so that looked pretty tame, right? Yeah, there's more stuff. Austin, take. Let's take. Give. And it's like, he forgets how to pick stuff up. Thank you. Robbie would remember how to pick up certain things, and Austin kind of makes it up each time. So different dogs do different things. I save little hard gift boxes. Take. Good. Give. Okay, and that thing he's doing where he like knocks his head back, he's trying to kick it to the back of his mouth because it's easier for him to carry stuff back there. But when he does it, he pokes puncture holes in stuff. So we're trying to discourage it where we can. Post-it notes. With Robbie, these would still be dry. With Austin, they're very wrinkly because they've gotten wet a lot. Take. Good. Give. Thank you. So nice and wet. This is a leather tag from one of his toys. Take. Hold. Good boy. Give. Pop. Give. Thank you. Pulled it out of the back of his mouth, soaking wet. That is, one of you asked about breeds. We try, and dogs that have to do retrieve work, we try and recommend that people stay away from the breeds that drool a lot, like St. Bernards or Newfoundlands. Sit. Good boy. Whoops. Take. Good job. Thank you. And he can even take things. We'll see how well this works. It's windy. I teach my dogs to pick up tissue paper. The reason is, if they eat it, they won't die, theoretically. They don't eat a lot of it. Don't feed it to your dog. But it teaches them how to pick up things delicately. If they get into a phase of shredding things, I'd rather they shred this than some document I need them to actually pick up for me. Take. Good. Give. Thank you. It does get stuck to their face, which is a drawback of the tissue paper, but then I get to see how they react if something gets stuck to their face, which is helpful. Let's see. Metallic things are things most dogs hate to pick up. Take. And you'll see, take. Hold. He tries to pick it up with the plastic tab. Thank you. Give. And not actually the metal. So we do put on the metallic things, we do try to put little tabs just to help accommodate the dog if they're going to adamantly refuse to pick up something and we really need it. We have to adapt to. It's weird to have metal in your mouth, I would imagine. Take leash. Good. Give. Thank you. That's one too. I drop his leash a lot. And when he finally got there, but Austin, sit. Thank you. Okay, so I have something on my phone called cat tones. You want to feel it?
It's weird.
Yeah. And you'll also notice it's yellow, so he can see it.
Is it so he doesn't scratch it up?
Nope, it's so that it doesn't slide around in his face. And it's so it doesn't slide around in my hand. So most people have those pop socket things, and I can't do that because it'll cause spasms in my hand. But with this, I can hold my phone and it stays in my hand. And it stays in my hand even if I'm shaking. So this stuff is on a lot of things in our house. And stop eating grass. Come on. Be a professional. It helps him pick it up. And it helps him see it. So if it's somewhere in the house and I ask him to find my phone, he looks for this yellow and he goes and picks it up. Austin, phone. Good. Give. Thank you. Good job. Without it, it slides around in his face too much. So.
Have you ever got a scratch on your phone from him picking it up?
Yes. There are several with this one. We have screen protectors on them, and it will have to get changed out at some point because I've worked very hard to break him of the pawing, but if he gets too happy, he still paws at stuff. I have to let it go. Let's see. Awesome. Tug. Tug. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Good job. Drop. Please don't run over the kids. He doesn't really pay attention to his surroundings so great, so that is entirely possible that he could do that. He does have a weird task. He won't let me be alone from my person. So if we're shopping together and he knows I'm supposed to be with Maddie or my husband, he makes me go back to them. I didn't teach him that. We think he learned that because I'm only ever in public with one of them. And so he thinks I'm not allowed to be by myself. So those are some of his tasks. I can't show you all of them because he does a lot of different things throughout the day, but those are some of the most fun things that he does.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, he had a great time doing that. So
Another question.
If you were in a store and you were looking at a shirt and you dropped it and you asked him to pick it up and he got holes in it, would you have to buy it?
yeah. I don't know that I would have to, but I usually do out of courtesy. We've been working on his retrieve off of shelves, and I typically go to the office supply section because I know that at some point I'm definitely going to use that stack of paper. So it's okay if it's a little wet and has some holes ripped in the packaging. One of my clients recently got a course certificate that has a tooth gouged through the paper. So it depends on the team, it depends on what it is, but yeah, it's sort of a common courtesy. But by that point, if your dog is retrieving merchandise, you trust that they know how to pick up something and aren't gonna rip a hole in it.
All right, girl.
Any more questions for us? Okay.
So what kind of breed is Austin? Like, I know you said he was part husky. But...
Yeah, we did not run a DNA test on my first dog, but based on his characteristics, we thought my first dog had some Great Dane, definitely some Sighthound and Malinois in him, which is like a really, really excited smaller German Shepherd. Austin, we ran a DNA test on because I wanted to know what I was getting into, and I needed to adapt my training a little bit for him. So he is Husky, Golden Retriever, Labrador Retriever, Collie, like Lassie, and Boxer. All high energy breeds.
I saw Golden Retriever and
Yeah. We originally thought Retriever Shepherd, and that's kind of what we were hoping for. But he does a lot of pull work, so the Husky comes in handy.